This wedding was an assignment for my Religion 2 class in Catholic.
This one's wife. Her downfall beckons. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Martha Ross writes in the Mercury News, Prince Harry, not this one's wife, was supposed to dominate recent media coverage of the rogue royal couple. Harry visited New York City last week, stopped in London this week, and was headed to Africa, speaking on behalf of causes he supports in order to prove that he can carry himself in the world as a statesman-like philanthropist and thought leader. But a political insider at the United Nations, where Harry spoke, told Page Six that his goodwill tour had been hijacked by his American wife. This one's wife had her employees speak on her behalf in a big splashy magazine cover to fight back against a new series of workplace bullying allegations, which first emerged in a scathing September the 12th article in The Hollywood Reporter. See parts passim. Naturally, the disclosures in The Hollywood Reporter were a threat to control, both in terms of the threat to control over those employees, but also in terms of damage to her facade. And, as I explained, it was necessary for her to respond by seeking to nullify that threat to control with the other employees supposedly supporting her. Instead of the focus being on Harry's New York engagements, royal observers and PR experts were left to ponder whether his wife faces a reputational reckoning that could leave her permanently branded a terrible boss. Well, I think she's already achieved that in the minds of many people, and that she's not a kind person, similar to her friend and Monty Shit Show neighbour, Ellen DeGeneres, who, of course, it's no coincidence, is also a narcissist. The comedian experienced a stunning fall from grace in 2020 when she became the focus of toxic workplace allegations at her daytime talk show. In her new Netflix comedy special For Your Approval, DeGeneres has bemoaned being cancelled, pity play, said she's been kicked out of Hollywood, pity play, and has been making the case that she deserves to be treated with affection again, sense of entitlement. We saw Ellen DeGeneres get eviscerated because new allegations continued to drop, Eric Schiffer, chair of reputation management consultants, said in interviews with Newsweek, and also with the Mercury News. Now this one's wife is seeing allegations dropping against her in two recent news reports. If it's any consolation to the former Suits star, Schiffer said the cases differ somewhat because DeGeneres built a brand on being the be kind lady. Well, actually, the brands don't differ that too much because this one's wife also builds her brand on turn up, do good, i.e. that she is inherently a kind person. But of course, the repeated evidence demonstrates that she's not. The supposed expert states brand this one's wife is not standing from the tops of buildings proclaiming her niceness. Well, actually it is. Her motto through Archwell is turn up, do good. She wants to be seen as this kind, empathic, supportive, understanding individual that engages in philanthropy and charity. He then states, seemingly contradicting himself, that the Duchess of Sussex wants to be seen kind and as an empathetic person who would treat anyone who works for her with respect. Schiffer agreed that the terrible boss and Duchess difficult allegations could hurt this one's wife and her effort to forge future brand deals. Although I would point out they're not exactly queuing up to offer them to her, are they? In a report that came out in the Daily Beast, former employees described her as a demon who had psycho moments. Images that wouldn't complement her anticipated Netflix cooking show, which is supposed to feature her celebrating the joys of cooking, gardening, entertaining, and friendship. This one's wife has been periodically dogged by allegations of being difficult since she married into the British royal family in May 2018. Several days before she and Harry sat down with Oprah Winfrey in 2021 to air their grievances against royal life in a globally televised interview, The Times in London published a report which quoted several current and former royal aides who said they were bullied by this one's wife. One former employee who was not identified in the story told The Times they had been personally humiliated by this one's wife, while another aide said her behaviour was more like emotional cruelty and manipulation, which I guess could also be called bullying. At the time, this one's wife dismissed the Times report as a calculated smear campaign, nullification of threat to control, hatched by a royal establishment and tabloid press that had grown hostile to her. When Buckingham Palace said in 2022 that it would not release the findings of its investigation into this one's wife's alleged bullying, a source claimed that she had been cleared. Well, there's a world of difference between not releasing something and saying somebody's cleared. They are not the same thing. However, the report continues by explaining that this one's wife has never been able to entirely silence accusations that she's attention-seeking and demanding. Well, indeed, she has two problems in that regard. One, evidence which shows that she is attention-seeking and demanding, and we know that she's like that because she's a narcissist. She and her supporters have shrugged off such criticism by saying that she's simply an ambitious woman who expects excellence, while it's sexist to ascribe negative connotations to these qualities. But the Hollywood Reporter story has revived the controversy. Schiffer and others said the story has made it difficult for her to dismiss the palace bullying allegations as an isolated, unfounded, UK-based smear campaign. The Hollywood Reporter suggests a possible pattern of behaviour that has continued since she and Harry stepped away from royal duties in 2020 and moved to California. As I have repeatedly pointed out to you, you look at behaviour over a period of time, and with this one's wife, in so doing, you see that there are repeated behaviours, a set of systemic behaviours that she engages in that support the fact that she acts with a sense of entitlement, an absence of emotional empathy, that she's preoccupied with success, that she lacks accountability, that she's manipulative, that she's grandiose, that she's haughty, she experiences magical thinking. She denied the bullying had happened in Britain, denial, first line of the twin lines of the narcissistic defence, and now we have a whole other set of accusations that make her seem out of touch and hypocritical, said Schiffer. The Hollywood Reporter addressed this one's wife and Harry's high staff turnover by interviewing some dozen current and former employees. As the publication's editor-in-chief, Mayor Roshan, explained, one source told the publication that this one's wife belittles people, doesn't take advice, and is a dictator in high heels who fumes, barks out orders, and bombards her staff with 5 a.m. emails. Everyone's terrified of this one's wife. The fact is that this resurrects once again the allegations, and Schiffer states that it's too soon to say whether this one's wife is poised for an Ellen DeGeneres-style fall from grace. It depends on whether the back and forth in United States media will prompt other news and entertainment organisations to do some digging, or other current and former employees to speak out for or against the American Duchess. He also wonders if this one's wife and Harry are at risk of litigation. Are there more things that will come out? Schiffer explained. The question is, what is the life of the set of allegations? If it can stay alive, it becomes additional stories that start to solidify a serious image hit. Well, there'll be those that argue that she's already experienced a serious image hit because there are plenty of people who understand that she's a narcissist and what that means. There are others that perhaps aren't quite on board with understanding that she's a narcissist but recognise that she is an unpleasant individual. And these allegations of being a dictatorial, bullying employer that have surfaced in the United States come as no surprise to those of you that are fully familiar with the fact that she is a narcissist. But whether this will cause her downfall remains to be seen. It doesn't change the view of those who are already well versed in what she is, but it depends. For instance, if, and as I mentioned earlier, they're not exactly queuing up to engage with her, but prospective partners may well be very hesitant to get into bed, figuratively at least, with an individual who has a reputation for being somebody who bullies. It's not a good look. And the fact that these allegations were made in Britain, then in Australia, and now in the United States could quite possibly speed up that downward spiral for this one's wife. What do you think? Do you think that's what's going to happen? Or do you think she'll continue to limp along, seeking to nullify those threats to control by digging out anybody who will be supportive of her? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.